Welcome to the Global Gaming Business Podcast, the industry's first and longest running podcast, now in our 17th year. I'm Roger Gross, the publisher of GGB. This week, the GGB Podcast sits down with Joe Asher, the president of sports betting for IGT, on how he transitioned from leading William Hill US to joining IGT and advising gaming operations on how to best implement sports betting on their properties. This week's program is brought to you by Konami Gaming. Later in the show, we're talking about a Konami creation that keeps reaching more and more properties year after year, so stay tuned. Welcome to the Global Gaming Business Podcast. Our guest today is Joe Asher, the president of sports betting for IGT. Joe, it's great to see you again. It's been quite some time.
Great to see you. Great to see you, Roger. First time I've seen you in this office.
Yeah, absolutely. The first time we've talked with your new title here. We've been through the William Hill thing, even before that with Brandywine Gaming. So it's really nice to be able to get together with you and follow you through this really incredible career you've had so far. So let's talk about the Super Bowl. It's the biggest betting event of the year coming up just in a few days. So give us your experience down the year, and how do you think this year is going to be different in any way?
Well, look, it's a good matchup. It's a good matchup.
Sure.
Maybe lacking some of the marquee names that might have been a little more appealing, perhaps,
right,
to customers. But I think it's a great matchup. Early on, at least, looks like the public's going to be laying the points on the Rams and betting the Bengals on the money line.
Right.
And so the sports books will be hoping it's Rams by 1, 2, or 3, I'd guess.
Mm-hmm.
But you can certainly make the case for either team. The playoffs this year in the NFL.
Oh, they were incredible. Yeah.
Yeah, it's been great.
I don't know about you, but I'm glad we're not seeing the Buccaneers and the Chiefs in again. I mean, there's the marquee names you were discussing, but I like to see these new players get in there, especially Stafford, who's never been in a Super Bowl in all his great career as well.
Well, it's funny. I was when I was driving over here, I was listening to the radio, and someone made the point that given all that he went through in Detroit,
right,
it probably really prepared him well for this, and Burrow's just been an unbelievable phenomenon.
Sure.
And what he's done in the playoffs is incredible.
Let's talk about the different kind of bets. Obviously, people bet who's going to win the game, but there's so many different prop bets and things like that in the playoffs. So give us some of the bets that you have seen people make in the past.
Oh, sure. I mean, look, it starts with the coin flip,
right,
and then goes
right,
to MVP
mm-hmm,
of the game,
right,
and everything in between. Prop bets are really, really popular in the Super Bowl. They're offered throughout the year, but the one day when they're a significant portion of the betting activity is on the Super Bowl. And it spans everything from alternate point spreads to, passes, passing yards,
mm-hmm,
rushing yards, receptions. You have the cross sports parlays as well.
right,
Number of rushing yards for somebody versus points that LeBron's going to score,
right,
kind of thing.
Exactly right.
So it crosses sports as
mm-hmm,
well, and it really just people like it for the entertainment and to have sort of the an interest throughout the game, regardless if they'll still bet whether it's laying the points or taking the points or the money line. But then, all these little prop bets throughout the game, I think, make it particularly interesting for people.
Sure. Let's talk about parlays. I mean, parlays is what you sportsbook operators like, right? You make some of your good money there, but they're also really fun. I know that first weekend of the playoffs, I bet four things, and I won 3 of them, and I thought I was going to win the 4th one, and it came down to the wire. But they're excited.
Yeah, look, it's a way for customers to bet a little and win a lot.
Right.
That's really
right,
that's really it. They've always been popular. I think all the more so now with different types of parlays and parlaying individual player
right,
performance
mm-hmm,
to the outcome of the game. You have the parlay cards, the traditional Nevada style parlay cards. You have obviously parlays and parlay card type offerings on mobile as well, but it really does go to that sort of core jackpot type of a thing where you bet a little and win a lot.
Right, yeah, and the odds aren't always in your favor, but then, as you said, you can win a lot, and it's almost like winning a jackpot on a slot machine.
Yeah, no, look, obviously in most forms of gambling, the odds are not in your favor, right? In sports betting, the theoretical margin is lower than perhaps in some other forms of gambling, but it's about, and it's much in sports betting. I think it's almost as much the satisfaction of being right.
Right. Sure.
It's sort of a corollary, to the money, right? It's a way to back your conviction, and to talk about it with your friends and so forth, and then if it plays out, then obviously you win money, and think of it like if you can, and it just kind of makes it more interesting to watch the game. You go to a movie, you're out the $15, whether you like the movie or not. It's gonna, you'll be there for a couple hours. You can bet the game, and you might lose the same amount of money, but you also might win, and it gives you that that interest, that rooting interest, and reason to stay engaged throughout the game. Right,
exactly. So you mentioned the MVP. I think last year in the Super Bowl, if you bet Burrows or Mahomes, not Burrows, but Brady or Mahomes, I think you probably had a good chance of winning one of those bets. But this year it's maybe a little different with Stafford and Burrows. They're both in their first Super Bowls, and they have some great players around them as well. Do you think there's more of a chance that somebody other than the quarterback might win the MVP this year?
Well, yeah, I mean, it always sets up for the quarterback to be MVP because he's going to touch the ball more than any other player on his team. But certainly the wide receivers are in contention this year. You've got obviously Kupp and OBJ on the one side, Chase on the other, Mixon if he has a big running game. You could certainly see Aaron Donald on the Rams defense if they're really turn out to be dominant in the game. But it by definition almost sets up naturally for one of the quarterbacks, and you could obviously if Cincinnati comes through and Burrow has a big game, then pretty easy to see him being the MVP.
But you get a real great odds for the defensive player, Donald or Von Miller. I understand has some really good odds as well, but that's a long shot pretty much, I guess. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. Just because it's how many interceptions are you really going to get, or how many sacks, and is the defense really going to dominate the game when both of these teams can put up points?
Yeah, no question. So we have a lot of new markets this year in the betting community right now for the first time. New York, Louisiana just came on the other day. Do you think there's going to be different betting patterns in those markets because it's the first time they're actually able to make legal sports bets?
Maybe not necessarily in this year's Super Bowl because you don't have Ohio online and you don't have California where you'd have a really heavy regional bias. So I wouldn't expect it to be that different. Although and traditionally, yes, there is the regional bias. We see it in Rhode Island when the Patriots were running good. People are betting the Patriots. But I also, my experience in Delaware was, when the Eagles were running good, everybody was betting the Eagles. And when they were running bad, everybody was betting against them. So the bias isn't necessarily always in favor of the local team.
But so you think in some of these new states, they're just going to bet who's going to win the game and maybe a few props?
No, I think that's what you're going to see. More generally, they'll bet either on the money line who's going to win the game or the point spread, and then a number of props to go with it. Right,
no question. So with the NFL season over after the Super Bowl, of course, the next thing you look through is to the March Madness. It's how big is that going to be this year? Now that again, there's sports betting all over the country.
Yeah, look, I think March Madness is always a big event. and it really was almost like the first indication, of COVID when you go back to it being canceled in 2020.
Yeah.
And so, I think, it'll probably, there'll be a lot of interest in March Madness this year as, we're kind of coming to the end of COVID restrictions and things of that nature. And of course, you have all these new states with sports betting. So March Madness will be a big event. And sports just seems to be a bigger and bigger part of the mainstream news these days as well. And I think that helps helps drive the interest in sports betting.
Sure. And also, football is always the top sport, and now we've got a couple of other leagues starting up. We've got the USFL starting up in the spring. There's this indoor football league that's really ramping up now as well. Do you think these, because there's so much more legal sports betting, I think they have a better chance of success?
It's a good question, Roger. The answer is I don't know, because up till now, none of these alternative leagues have made it.
Right.
It's we have our football season. Season ends, and people kind of take a little bit of a break,
right? Sort
of mentally and from watching, and then they tune into March Madness,
right?
And so it's, I think, just unclear whether there is a market in the country for year-round professional football.
Sure.
There was a little bit of interest in the AAF. I've been to an arena game. It's kind of like a fun thing to do,
right.
But it's just not that. It's not even anywhere close to being on par with watching the NFL.
Right, and it seems like even though the USL, they're bringing the team names back and the logos, but they're playing it in one place, right? I mean, that's got to make those cities not that much interested in it if they're not going to actually be in town.
Well, and again it comes and then it comes down to the players,
right?
Of course, there's in the NFL in particular, I think there's always a storyline. Now we're coming to an interesting point in the NFL where some of these top quarterbacks, who we've seen for the last 15, 20 years are retiring. Roethlisberger, and now of course Brady. And then we'll see what happens with Aaron Rodgers and you have these personalities that are almost that are really independent of or derivative of the game, I guess. And you're not going to have that in these alternative leagues, right? I mean, I just over the Christmas break I took one of my daughters to see the movie about Kurt Warner and tracing his play in the Arena League. But that's pretty rarity, and even when he was in the Arena League, he wasn't that big of a deal, right? It was when he got the shot with the Rams, because Vermeil believed him.
Yeah, no question. So let's talk about your new job. You took William Hill through the process of the sale to Caesars, and it was they got a really good deal, I think, because you laid the groundwork for them. So what really drew you to IGT to become president of the sports betting operations here?
Well, after the Caesars deal closed, I left right when the day the deal closed.
Right.
Packed up the office and moved out, and was just sort of had no idea what I was going to do other than being dead set on taking the summer off, going to Del Mar, and it was great.
Right.
What's not to like? You get you spend the summer at Del Mar. You don't have any work to do. No emails to answer. No
great
phones.
Horses too.
It was great, it's great. And I'd been friendly with Enrico, a fellow named Enrico Drago, who's now my boss. I'd been friendly with Enrico because William Hill and IGT had partnered to win the sports betting contract in Rhode Island, and then we worked together. And I'd always liked and gotten along with Enrico. And we talked not long after I left William Hill, and it was more of kind of a goodbye. Maybe there's something we can do down the line. And then he called me over the summer, and my attitude over summer was listen to everything, commit to nothing.
Right.
And the idea is maybe to come in and do some consulting. And I said, would love to get a chance to work with you, Enrico. Really mean that, but let's talk about it when the kids are back in school.
Right.
And we might have had one more conversation over the summer when when Italy won the Euros, I think it was, because he's Italian.
Right.
Anyway, first day of school, Roger, kids go off to school. It's quiet in the house. I take the dogs for a walk. It's still really hot in Vegas. My older dog, he pooped out after a half hour. He didn't want to do anything anymore. And, it's 9 o'clock. What am I going to do? And, Enrico called me that day.
Yeah.
So he had, remembered that was the first day of school.
Right.
And anyway, it started, the idea started as doing some consulting around the sports betting business. And then it eventually morphed into a full-time job and started October 1st.
Okay. So, IGT has a great reputation in this area, the Play Sports program. What kind of sets it apart from some of the other competitors?
Yeah, well, look, I mean, so to set the foundation for it, it's the hardware and software you need to operate a sports book, right? Things like the betting engine, the PAM, the guts of running a sports betting system. And you have two choices, right? If you're a big enough operator, you can own your own technology, but that comes with great cost. Or if you're not, or you don't want to own your own technology because of the cost, you can use third-party technology, and IGT is just an obvious place for a lot of people to look because they're already using IGT products today.
Right.
And so the customer base is a mix of some pure online sports betting companies, perhaps, like FanDuel,
right.
It's a big customer of ours, and I mentioned the Rhode Island Lottery earlier, PointsBet, pure online operator, and then you have the retail casino operators like Boyd or Resorts World here in Las Vegas, Boyd in Nevada, and then all these tribes across the country. I was in Green Bay a couple weeks ago with the Oneida tribe, and they're obviously familiar with IGT, but they got the right to offer sports betting now under their compact, and chose to partner with us. So the technology is very modular, so it facilitates integrations quite easily, and once you learn how to use it, it's fairly straightforward.
And it plugs into the other systems that IGT has for your for the slots and things as well.
To the IGT Advantage system is in fact one of the things that we're working on, as well as maybe some other third party integrations. Big focus around payments too, to facilitate people being able to fund online accounts, which is such a big deal. And then of course, IGT is a manufacturer, so I mean the kiosks are kind of a really big deal. I mean, much more so, frankly, outside Nevada than in Nevada. Historically, like in the William Hill days, we might have one kiosk or two kiosks. Really big place, we might have three. Because players are almost conditioned to going up to the window. Right. There's probably I don't know, a dozen or so kiosks at that Oneida Casino in Green Bay, and some will have 25 kiosks in them, and they're very popular with customers, much like people use the ATMs these days, even when they go to the actual bank. Right.
Yeah, I was up in Washington State this weekend and went into a small Indian casino to watch one of the playoff games, and they didn't even have a sports book. I had no kiosk or anything. So, but I guess one of the smaller ones. So I guess, but you've got a couple.
Well, you'll give me the lead after we're done.
Yeah.
We got a couple of great partners up there.
Right.
Snoqualmie. Pretty big place.
Sure.
Obviously, they got.
I think I drove by
decent
that one.
Size. Yeah, no, that's a really good play. Angel of the Winds, another really good partner, and there's others. Washington State is obviously a big tribal market.
Beautiful casino. But I wasn't really paying attention to what they were offering there. I was looking for the online sports betting, and they don't have that. Is that in their compact, or are they just going to do retail for a while?
No, I think for now it's retail and mobile on premise, and it's all a function of what ultimately the legislature and the governor and the tribes want to do, right? And, and in Wisconsin, similar type of thing. You got to go to the reservation, and you can bet mobile, but only on the reservation, and frankly, that's the way that that tribe wants it.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. So the sports betting market is still growing. We just saw Louisiana come on. They're going to have mobile in Mississippi soon. I was talking to somebody yesterday.
Maybe I don't know. They don't. I mean, I testified in Mississippi back in my William Hill days on mobile, but I don't know where they are on the legislation.
Yeah. I was talking to somebody about Texas the other day, and I said, oh, it's not going to happen. But then I realized that you've got Jerry Jones and Mark Cuban and Tillman Fertitta as casino owners, and I'm sure they have a lot of influence as well. So maybe Texas will come on. So how much more is it going to grow before it kind of stabilizes, do you think?
Oh, well, look, my prediction is sports betting will be legal in all 50 states.
Yeah.
Okay? All 50. People say, oh, it'll never happen in Utah or something. All 50 states. Now, I'm not going to give you a date, so you can't say I was wrong. But, it's, the public is clearly likes to bet on sports. Sure. The leagues have embraced it firmly. And so I think that, kind of continues. It's, you look at, there's obviously so many, aspects to it.
Sure.
And but the advertising has made, the knowledge of its availability quite apparent to so many. Now that also has, problem gambling implications as well that, folks have to understand and appreciate. But, it's people like to watch sports and they like to bet on sports.
Right.
And, they're having record ratings for the NFL playoffs. Now, yes, the games have been great, so people stay engaged, but they're tuning in to begin with. Is some aspect of that because they can now bet on it? Sure.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, it's look, not everybody who watches a game is betting on it, but pretty much if you bet on the game, you're going to watch it.
Yeah, sure. Absolutely. And watch it all the way through for the most part,
Yeah, as long as you can, right? Unless you get,
I had an over-under a couple of weeks ago before the great playoffs, and I was just watching to see if I was going to win the under, and I did. So
well, congratulations. I got to follow your bets, but but also, I mean, here's the other piece to it as well, is now that with streaming, my son, he's in a fantasy or a flag football league, and they practice from 3 to 4 on Sunday, and their game's 4 to 5.
Right.
So right during the NFL playoffs, terrible, right?
Yeah.
But I got YouTube TV, so I can watch it on my phone while I'm going to his game, and so you can now bring the game with you.
Right.
You don't have to be either in a sports book or at home or in the bar.
Sure.
The portability increases the viewership, and then if you're in a state with statewide mobile, then you can bet as well.
Sure.
Konami's award-winning Synchros is the casino management system of choice for some of the industry's most innovative operators. Many have chosen Synchros in recent years. Operators like Rivers Casino in Pennsylvania and New York, Desert Diamond Casino in Arizona, Golden Entertainment, 10 casinos across the U.S., Carnival Corporation and Norwegian Cruise Lines, Las Vegas' newest strip mega resort, Resorts World Las Vegas, and it was selected by the nation's largest casino on the West Coast with over 6,500 slot machines and an amazing new resort hotel. To start speaking with the Konami team about Synchros and why so many casinos are choosing it, visit KonamiGaming.com/connect.
So we've been, obviously tracking the market share of the operators, and most of them are in single digits. And there's got to be some consolidation at some point. When is that going to really start?
Well, look, it started a little bit last year with Penn buying the Score and DraftKings and Golden Nugget Online.
Right.
Clearly, I think consolidation continues, and also look, there's not there's going to be a handful of major operators who have the ability to compete. There will be niche opportunities for others in particular regions, particular markets, and then some of them will throw in the towel or be acquired for for less than they've invested. I think that's inevitable.
Sure, no question. So, what do you think is going to be the big accelerator of revenue growth in sports betting, in terms of technology? I know I was speaking with, I won't mention his name, but he was head of one of the big sports companies early on, and he said, once in-play betting gets going along here, he said that's really going to be the driver of this, because you have so much critical mass at that point. Is that really taking over yet, or is that really not even scratched the surface?
Oh no, in-plays has been an important part of the business, a growing part of the business for in the U.S. For over the last 5 to 7 years easily. Right. I mean, I saw it in William Hill. Our in-play business just continued to grow, and now you're seeing that growth continue. So clearly, in-play continues. And what people principally are betting in play, by the way, is they're still betting on the outcome of the game. Right. It's not sort of
is the next one going to be a pass or a run? You don't even get to that level yet.
I mean, that's very granular. Right. Frankly, it's disruptive to the viewing experience. Mm-hmm. There's some of that, for sure. You're seeing some of that now. But, for the most part, it's, the outcome of the game or a defined subset of the game that people will bet on and play. I think video streaming with integrated into the sports betting app is clearly one area where the business is going to go. So you're watching. Go back to my example. I'm watching a game on my phone, and the betting options will be overlaid on the video.
Right.
I think you sort of see that. Personalization is another area where I think we're not anywhere close to where it ought to be. My app should know that I like to bet the under on the Golden Knights game, and so if I log in a half hour before puck drop, the first betting option I see should be that. So all to make it more efficient.
Sure. So another thing that IGT does is link up the sports betting options with the slot machines. Now you can see the odds on on the little window at the bottom. How much is that growing for your company right now?
Well, so there's two products. One is what we call the Crystal Flex betting terminal, which is sort of more of akin to a sit-down slot machine type thing, and that's deployed in a at least one place that I'm thinking of right now as sort of a trial, but we're expecting a more widespread distribution of that over the coming months. But the one I'm most really passionate about is sort of a bar top machine. I think there's big opportunity, and I've been talking about this when a couple of years ago. I remember Enrico and Renato Ascoli showed me sort of the Crystal Flex, and my reaction is that's great, but I'd love to see it in a bar top, right? Where you're standing at the bar or sitting at the bar, and you got the traditional video poker, some of the old Game King type content, and you can also bet on sports there because it's on the TV in front of you. I mean, there was talk of having the video on the monitor itself, but I actually don't necessarily think you want to do that because it might be a little bit of a different speed of the feed than what you're seeing on the TV in the bar. But I think that's a big opportunity. Sure. So that's going to be something that we're working hard to get done so it's available to customers this year. And I think there's a big opportunity around that because that social engagement.
That's funny. That's just exactly what I was doing at this Washington casino on Sunday. I was playing video poker and watching the game at the same time. So
right, and so if you want to have your in-play bet, you can push the tab and pull up the betting offerings instead of having to get up and go to a separate kiosk.
Exactly. So IGT just made a deal with the Arizona Coyotes. Some people were bringing up the fact that the owner of the Coyotes is also a casino owner, which is there any conflict of interest there?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, Alex Morello has obviously been very successful. What he's done with the Grand Sierra has been really impressive. I mean, last time you've been up there, but I was there before he bought it. Yeah, what he's turned it into. Yeah. I don't know if you got down to he's got the Sahara here in Las Vegas and done just a tremendous job with that. They just opened a new Chicky and Pete's there as well. The Coyotes, you could have a whole separate podcast around around the Coyotes, but over time I kind of seen the movie before, saw what he did up in Reno. He's going to be successful with it, right? He'll get his new arena, and they'll get that team in a good place. And earlier I was talking about niche opportunities, and he's decided he's going to run it himself rather than partner with somebody else. But he's going at it from the approach of, I'm going to keep my costs low.
Right.
My marketing is going to be very targeted, my database and whatnot. And, I think I can, make more money doing that than selling a skin and getting a revenue share from somebody else. And, on the, it's the same betting offerings. Obviously he's worked out whatever he needs to work out with, the NHL around that. But, they're I always thought it was kind of silly when, I remember William Hill and Brandywine before it was running the sports book at the Riviera, and the guy who owned the Riviera, I think, had an interest in the Milwaukee Bucks, right?
That's right.
And so we had to take the Bucks games off the board,
right?
Because the NBA wanted that, and I just thought it was kind of pointless, right?
Yeah,
what is it really going to accomplish?
He's going to tell the players to throw the game or something.
Well, and it's the customer's the one who comes in there and they want to bet the Bucks game, and no, sorry, you can't bet the Bucks game here. You got to go down the street.
Yeah.
It just I didn't see what it really accomplished.
Yeah. So you mentioned some of your clients. You have some really big clients with FanDuel and Rhode Island Lottery, and I know you're involved with Resorts World here in Las Vegas. So, but you also have some of those smaller things like the Oneidas, and I don't think they're small. They're pretty big up there. But I understand this casino I was in Washington State. Is a small casino. How can you scale what you offer to these big clients also to the smaller clients?
Well, yeah, it's a function of trying to keep the infrastructure costs relatively low, so that they can offer something directly for their customers on a cost-efficient basis. Because I think folks realize that sports betting brings people into the property, right? There's no doubt about it. And then once you got them in the property, then you got a shot to get them to do something else too,
Sure.
Whether it's play the tables or eat in a restaurant or a slot machine and so forth. So it's I've said this before. I think sports betting is the single greatest customer acquisition tool in the history of the U.S. casino industry, right? And when you think of it through that prism, I think it gives you a different perspective, right? Caesars is probably one I pay a little extra attention to, because very friendly with Tom and the Caranos and so forth, and of course all my former colleagues, and these commercials that that they're doing, we've all seen, the Mannings and Halle Berry and JB Smoove, and they're spending a ton of money doing that, right? The creative is really neat. But they're introducing hundreds of thousands and over time millions of people into the broader Caesars ecosystem, right? So those people are going to go to Caesars casinos and eat in their restaurants and stay in their hotels. And so it actually, in my opinion, it doesn't matter if Caesars ever makes money on sports betting, right? Because this is the greatest customer acquisition tool ever. And so, I think, the focus ought to be that, yes, you can actually make money on sports betting standing alone, but then you got to consider all the ancillary revenue that it can generate and general attention.
Sure. Yeah. No question about that. So, what would you tell a tribe, to convince them that they use IGT products rather than go to another supplier?
Well, I think clearly one of the things is you can trust us, and we're really hyper focused now. Since I've been here, I've been hyper focused around making sure we meet our obligations. to our customers and help them understand what the product is. But it's a product that will suit their needs, right? That's really what it is. It's about what's going to suit your needs, and I think we've proven, given the breadth of customers we have, that this product will suit their needs, will help them understand it, walk them through the broader business. I'll give you a specific example. We've been talking about the Oneida tribe, right? I was there a couple weeks ago. Great people, wonderful visit. We had, they're located in Green Bay,
right?
Okay, so
pretty rabid fans.
Pretty rabid fan base, and they're an official partner. I mean, there's actually the Oneida Gate at Lambeau Field, right? They took me down onto the field itself,
cool.
Which was really cool. But guess what? Throughout the season, on a Sunday, everybody's betting the Packers, and so the obvious question is, well, gee, if the Packers win and cover, we're going to lose money, right? And so, but I've been around this long enough and understand how it works. That's great. If you want to, everybody knows what the point spread is,
right?
And so you want to offer the fair point spread. You don't want to jack up the line and upset customers. And when they win, great, give them the money back. They'll come back the next week,
right?
And then it'd be 1 week. The Packers win and they didn't cover it against Cleveland. And okay, well that's that's good because they continued on, but into the first seed. And then of course the day when they got beat by San Francisco turned out to be a big day, betting wise in the casino. But the key point was just look, don't worry about it. We're not interested. We're not worried about one game. Right? We're interested because everybody's a Packers fan. We're always interested in the outcomes, but we're not worried about the outcome of one game or even one day. There are losing days. There are a lot of losing days in this business, right? And you might even have a losing month. But I don't think I've seen 2 consecutive losing months, and I'm sure, I've never seen a losing year. We're building this business for the long term. Right. So look, I tell everybody, look, don't sweat the games. I worry about it enough for all of us. Right. So you don't have, don't worry about it. So anyway, that type of dialogue with our customers, and helping them think about it in advance, I think is something that's really important. It's something that I've gotten used to doing over the years, and I got other stories like that. Somebody said, "What are we going to do?" Everybody in my casino, they love the Saints. They love the Saints. They're always going to bet the Saints. What are we going to do? I said, "We're going to root for the other team." Right. So I think the experience, and I hate to talk about my own experience because it makes me feel old, but and the others on the team have a lot of experience around this business. Joe Bertoloni, started Brandywine with me, and now, Joe and I are back again. Tony DiTomaso used to run the sports book for the Calneva before he joined Brandywine. So these are people with, a lot of experience and knowledge in the business, and I think that should give customers a comfort level.
Sure, no question. Well, I want to ask you one more question, and it has to do with something that's close to your heart. I know, horse racing. You started out as a track announcer, which I can't imagine, calling all those names so quickly. And
I still do it.
Do you really? Okay.
Yeah, every year I go up to the Elko County Fair.
Okay.
With my son, and they're nice enough to let me call a race or two.
That's cool.
Over the weekend.
But obviously you love horse racing, and you spoke at our Racino conferences a couple of times back in Delaware, and I think we had one in West Virginia you showed up at as well, and you're real knowledgeable about them. So a few years ago, it seemed like horse racing was dying. They said we're going to have 4 major tracks, super tracks, and everybody else is going to die off. Well, that's obviously hasn't happened. In fact, in Nebraska now they're building new tracks to put a casino with. What's the state of horse racing these days?
Look, that's a complex question. I think there's a core horse racing following that still exists, and the people like me, I love to go to Del Mar every summer and so forth. The the drug problem in horse racing continues to be a problem,
Right.
right? This, the situation with Medina Spirit coming up positive in the Kentucky Derby is just, horrible. And so I'm interested to see how the new federal legislation around drug testing is going to play out. I don't think anybody really knows how it's going to play out. There's a whole big, cost aspect to it as well. But it comes down to the integrity of the competition and people, having confidence in the integrity of the competition. It's so important. And we didn't talk about it, but this allegation that Stephen Ross was offering Brian Flores, $100,000 a game to tank.
Yeah.
I mean, they got to investigate that and get to the bottom of it. And if there's evidence, the fact that that's true, then he's got to go.
Yeah.
Because the integrity of the game has to be paramount. And horse racing, it's look, I think it's kind of a niche business. Other than maybe you can make 5 days a year, right? The Triple Crown days, and then the 2 days of Breeders' Cup. But even one day, the Breeders' Cup is really niche. And it's really, people pay attention to the Derby, and if there's a Triple Crown on the line, they'll watch the Belmont. Maybe they'll watch the Breeders' Cup. And then you have, the marquee meets of Del Mar and Saratoga. I got back to Saratoga this year for the first time in a long time, and that was kind of fun.
That's a great meet up there.
Yeah, it's a great meet.
Yeah.
And so I think it's, the industry has done a pretty good job of trying to, rationalize, the cost base and understand where it fits, in the broader entertainment options that are available to consumers.
Sure. So New Jersey just passed a regulation now that they can offer fixed odd betting on horse races. Is that going to be a big difference maker?
I think it's to be determined.
Yeah.
I think it's to be determined. I mean, fixed odd, it adds a whole nother element to it that people find enjoyable. In the UK, because not only it's not only who you're going to bet, but when you're going to bet them.
Right.
And if you wait too long, the price changes and so forth. Could be good, could be bad, I suppose. So it adds a whole new element to it. The U.S. culture is so deeply pari-mutuel, and of course, fixed odds really is only really relevant for win. I mean, pick sixes, trifectas, and so forth are inherently, more of a pari-mutuel product. So I'm interested to see how it does it. Something that Dennis Drazen and I are good friends, and he's the guy who kind of got it going in New Jersey.
Right.
So I'm interested to see how they do.
Yeah, great. Well, Joe, thanks for the time. It's great to sit down with you, and love getting your views on the horse tracks there, because one of my favorite things to do, a nice day when I can put my feet up and just sit at the track all day. But it's nice to get together with you, and congratulations on the new job. And let's stay in touch and talk again in the next year or so and find out where you're at. Well,
I'll say one last thing. I spend probably too much time on Twitter, but yesterday, Frankie Dettori had a great tweet. Frankie Dettori, for your viewers who don't know him, is tremendous, European jockey, and great jockey. And he's on Twitter, and he said, name the one race you wish you'd have seen, right? You'd love to have been to. And it was just, it's a great question. It was fascinating seeing all the responses. A lot of people put the video of the race into them.
Oh, really?
And it was so, go track down the Frankie Dettori tweet when he's asking you for the one race. I said Secretariat winning the Belmont, but there'd be, a lot you could come up with.
Yeah, no question.
But anyway, great being with you. Thank you.
Joe. Thanks again to Konami Gaming. Head to KonamiGaming.com/connect to start speaking with Konami's top synchros representatives about your 2022 technology goals. To learn more about sports betting as more jurisdictions come online, visit GGBmagazine.com. To get all the news of the gaming industry delivered to your desktop every Monday morning, sign up at GGBnews.com and use the coupon code GGB180 for a free subscription. Don't miss a single episode of the podcast. Sign up on Apple Podcasts or Spotify today. So we'll see you next time on the GGB Podcast.